All right. Hey, everybody. Looks like we got some people in now. I'm sure some more will trickle in. But as this is a new presentation and I don't really know how long it goes, figure we get started now and avoid running out of time or anything like that. So my name is Troy Daniels. I'm the head of technical training here at SimpliPhi Power. We also have two other panelists. Matt Walker's also on just in case any connection issues or anything like that. He can help out and take over as well as help answer questions. We also have a key member of our sales team. Dan Sauer is also on the phone. And Dan will be able to help answer any sales related questions that maybe are a little out of my realm. So please don't hesitate if it's something very salesy or regarding our distribution or anything like that. Dan's here as well, and he can help out. 1 second, let me turn off this fan, get a little background noise out of there. Okay, so today we're actually going to be talking about something a little different than we're used to talking about, kind of steering away from, I guess, what I would call overly technical training here, and really looking at the sales side of things and you know the best way to provide a value proposition and to sell our batteries, frankly, to show value to the customer, whether that's just looking at our various products, which fits for each project, looking at levelized cost of energy, and even looking at some of our things as a company like distribution availability. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. So if you've seen my other presentations, you might have seen these slides a few times. Be pretty quick, but just a few of these kind of company overviews. So just looking at our company and where we started and where we are now. So really looking at, you know, the founding in 2010, we were actually OES Energy at the time. And really what we were doing is looking at the problem that we were facing. That problem being, you know, lead acid batteries and unsafe lithium batteries that were being utilized for pretty much every project you could think of. And we were looking at a way that we could provide that longevity, resiliency, efficiency, usable capacity, footprint of lithium, but maintain a level of safety and clean, you know, clean energy. So what we did is we looked towards lithium iron phosphate as our chemistry. And really the kind of proving grounds here was actually in 2011, 2012 with the military, Department of Defense, US military, where we actually were able to go ahead and implement our lithium iron phosphate batteries into forward operating bases and do lead acid replacements. Crazy thing at the time, the military was saying no lithium at all, none. We don't want any lithium batteries. The cause, you know, the reasoning for that is that they found them unsafe, and they were looking at cobalt-based lithium batteries, which were at the time unsafe, still are for a lot of reasons. And we were able to convince them and to implement our lithium iron phosphate batteries into these systems. And we had no issues, no failures. And we're able to prove that these batteries can hold up in these environments and are safe as we expected. From there, we grew as a company, product line expansion, more ESS, looking at distributed assets and how to easily implement them in everything from off-grid to grid-tied. And actually, at some point, we've really upped our manufacturing, which we will talk about a little bit today regarding, you know, availability and things like that. But we've actually moved into a new facility and continue to grow as a company, as well as make sure we can drive costs down, supply up, and keep up with demand. 100 megawatt hours of product shipped to date. I'm sure that number is higher. That's probably pretty outdated at this point. But we continue to grow and continue to look at different products, even moving towards some commercial industrial products that we're going to look at today as well. Oops, sorry there. Okay. A little bit regarding UL standards. This slide might be a little out of place, but I like to just kind of kick it off as it's becoming so much more important here. Looking at UL standards of our products, you're looking at a few different things here. 1642 is cell level, probably not super important for most cases. 1973 battery level UL listings. Any of our products, we're gonna go towards getting that listing. And 9540A, which we will talk about later, but I think that's going to become more and more important, especially if you're looking at residential installs. Maybe you're doing grid tied, adding batteries in. 9540 is going to be really, really important. And we push various products towards this listing and have approved products for 9540. As well as UL, of course, holds the standard as far as testing and actually showing different safeties and things like that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what might drive a customer, or whether that's residential, industrial, whatever it may be. What could be some driving factors here to move them towards batteries? I think escalating energy costs is a pretty obvious one up front. I mean, look what's going on in Texas right now. People without power or that were without power are now being charged for the failed infrastructure themselves on these bills. Things like time of use rates, just tons of different things going on as far as rising energy costs from the kind of traditional utility grid. And mixed with that, we're seeing renewables go down in price. So it's becoming more and more tantalizing to make the switch. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about that as well coming up in the next couple slides. Failed infrastructure, still a big driver, definitely a driver on residential grid tied batteries, is looking at failed infrastructure. We're seeing more and more outages. We're seeing greater outages and even planned outages. Looking at distributed assets is truly building up on infrastructure, and looking at, you've got a battery in the solar system in your house specifically, that's a really good thing to have. It's a distributed asset. You're not relying on this big grid that could fail, and then it's kind of out of your power. So that's definitely driving customers to look more and more towards batteries. Beyond that, I think in my own personal experience, something I've noticed regarding infrastructure, is looking at how infrastructure plays a part when it comes to building on a new property that maybe doesn't have power, and looking at, weighing the cost of solar batteries versus something that's already there that you might have to pay for to get pulled out. Maybe you need poles and lines pulled into your new property. Oftentimes people are finding it just better to go off grid oftentimes in these cases. So I see that a lot out here in Colorado, in some of the more mountainous regions where it costs more to pull in power than it just does to go ahead and build an off-grid system. And decarbonization, I think, is always going to play a part in this, looking towards cleaner energy, clean storage, and the economic growth that truly brings. Okay, so I just kind of mentioned a few of these. Time of use, these are some applications that we see. Time of use, peak load shaving. For any of those that are not familiar with time of use, I think most people probably are these days. Looking at how much, companies charging more during certain peak demand times, where you expect people to be home, and that can really be mitigated, almost virtually gone when it comes to a battery solar system. And that really ties into, we look at integrated solar plus storage. It's becoming more and more common. I think a lot of new systems, people are just asking for it outright, but we're seeing a lot of older systems as well that are looking to add storage after the fact of already having a residential grid tied system. Just to pause real quick, any questions you may have, again, related to sales, support, technical, type them into the Q&A. If you go up to that little control bar, there's a little Q&A spot there. You can type any questions you have right there, and we'll get to them at the end. Okay, let's look at the cost of power outages. Well, before we look at the cost, look at this graph on the right here, where we can see, so this figure, it took me a little bit to figure out exactly what the metric is. These are events that occurred where over 50,000 people lost power in the US. And weather-related versus non-weather-related. But as you can see, it's becoming more and more common. And while you might say this might be chalked up to weather itself, I would say this is more related to failing infrastructure. The weather being a pretty constant thing, climate, different story, but weather, we're looking at just failed infrastructure here that's getting older, outdated, and it's easier to fail during these typical storms that might have occurred in the past and it didn't cause a failure. So you can see definitely where it spikes, but it continues. The trend seems to be going up, and more outages that are affecting more and more people. As far as residential losses that you might see, let's look at things like spoiled food, loss of income. That's a new one, but that's something now we need to look at. That is related a lot to more and more people working from home. And you can lose some income when the power goes out. Maybe lose your job, if you have frequent power outages. Safety, I think that's a big one we just saw in Texas. Safety being a big factor here. Keeping the heat running, things like that. Peace of mind. I mean, I swear I see more systems sold in my days as a salesperson in this industry just for peace of mind more than anything on a residential side of things. Commercial, still, there's definitely some sells there regarding why it makes sense to look at the cost of the power outages. Loss of business income, huge one, especially right now where maybe some businesses are struggling as is. Last thing they need is a power outage. The cost of ownership for these power outages, I mean, even think about a restaurant, maybe it loses a lot of food. There's a lot of cost there. Labor, rent, loss of sales, increased utility bills to cover the outage. Again, I already mentioned that one, but that one is staggering to me that they can charge you money to cover an outage that you didn't have power in, but we're seeing it. U.S. run production financial damages. This is a big one. We're talking about production that happens here in the United States. And especially right now, the last thing we need to do is have financial damages related to power outages for those companies. The U.S. customers saw an average of 8 hours of power outages during 2019. I suspect that number is going to be much higher for 2020. Okay, so let's actually look at some numbers here regarding growth of distributed solar panels paired with energy storage. So obviously, I think everyone kind of knows this growth over the next 5 years is expected to grow significantly. We can look at these kind of just really basic trends here. Solar only here in the blue or whatever color. I apologize, I'm pretty colorblind. And then the darker color here, 2019, we can see this little sliver here. Look how much it jumps, or it's going to be jumping. But even looking at, and this chart doesn't have it, the 2020 data was pretty significant. I think this number right here, and let's look at the actual numbers. So 8% of all installed solar had storage in 2020. And expected attachment rate for 2022 is 15 to 16%, so double. 25 to 27 is expected off the trends in 2025. I think that's a low ball number. I think that number is going to end up being quite a bit more by 2025 in my own opinion, but we just have to see where the trends go. And really that a lot of these drivers are looking at, things like incentivized programs, costs going down, and some of the other things we talked about, even like decarbonization and just looking at the customer's needs as well. Sorry, a little jumpy there on that one. All right, so policy drivers, like we just talked about, incentives, targets, and market access work. We can look at the more basic stuff, like looking at the ITC, been around for a while, still a really big factor in getting people to go solar. And I think kind of looking at the trends, they go solar, then the battery follows oftentimes. State incentives, I'm going to just kind of talk about California here, as that's where SimpliPhi is located. So we have a lot of when it comes to CALSA and looking at what incentives are being put on the table and things like that through the government. But looking at like the solar roofs incentive, which only, it really pushed more solar that way. And really, again, there's just credits all over the place. And there's growing energy credits too. So not just power, where we see, solar related credits, but we also have battery related credits that are becoming more and more common as well. And if you just look at this chart, we're looking at price, and this is aided definitely by incentives as well. But we can see, look at all these costs going down. Coal kind of staying right around the same, but nuclear going up. I don't think that really affects us too much in the US, but we can see some of these significant ones like PV, which I know if we're already in the industry, we know this. I mean, look at the cost from 5 years ago. It's insane how much it's gone down. And energy storage is quickly following suit there. So again, incentives wise, if we're talking California, for anyone that is in California, again, we're just kind of using that as an example. Some of the big ones that we look at, the SGIP program that we are part of. This is directly related to adding resiliency, really, and looking at, what's your battery value to the grid itself. Distributed assets still have a huge value when it comes to providing the grid with its own backup, basically, looking at how we can utilize residential distributed assets for the benefit of everyone. Okay, and I'll kind of fly through this one. This is actually supposed to be hid, so we're not going to talk about that slide today, but we are going to talk about FEMA, the BRIC, storage of microgrids as disaster mitigation. So building resilient infrastructure in communities with support states, local communities, tribes, and territories as they undertake hazard mitigation project, reducing the risk they face from disasters and natural hazards. So, looking at these funds that are put in place to get ahead of these disasters, and to really look at pre-disaster mitigation efforts and how energy plays such a key role in that. Think microgrids too, this big part of microgrids for this. And if you're looking for more information on that, I'm probably not the best person to talk to, but there's definitely a lot of people on our team that have really deep knowledge of these various programs and how to take advantage of them. Okay, so I want to talk briefly about a few products we're going to talk about here. And then we're going to talk about what products might make sense for specific projects. So again, lithium iron phosphate is our chemistry. That's where we land on chemistry. Chemistry being so important as a selling point for our batteries. Looking at lithium iron phosphate compared to cobalt-based lithium batteries, these are the batteries you hear about catching on fire in the news. These cobalt-based batteries, they're unsafe, and you're going to see a lot of issues with them compared to lithium iron phosphate, which is clean, does not have a chance of thermal runaway. It's why we stick with it. It's a very resilient battery. And definitely if you're talking about in a customer's home, they're going to want something safe, and it's a big sell to look towards. If you're trying to sell our batteries against somebody else that maybe is a cobalt-based battery, that would be a big sell to make, is simply looking at the safety factor. So some products we're going to talk about today. The SimpliPhi is our closed loop communication battery. So it does have external comms to the inverter itself. This one is a 3.8 kilowatt hour battery. It is scalable, but only up to about 40 batteries currently. And its current advanced integration as far as which inverters it communicates with is the solar converter. Our Phi battery, this is our standard Phi battery, is our most popular battery that's selling currently. Parallel connections, it has the ability to scale basically unmitigated. You can continue to scale up as much as you want. Comes in 24 and 48 volt options. Still has a battery management system. It's just not one that communicates with the inverter directly. And we're actually going to talk about, I'm not going to bore you too much with C over 2, but just know our Phi products do have C over 2, which we're going to talk about later what the benefit there is. But, you know, looking at C rate, just meaning that not only is the battery rated, so the kilowatt hour rating is at C over 2, but it can charge and discharge within a 2-hour period. So this can be really beneficial. We're going to talk about regarding charging more than anything. But it can also help regarding, you know, commercial stuff where maybe you need a really fast discharge. We also have some smaller products, like the 12 volt 1.4, also comes in 24 volt, again, at 1.4. Scalable, small and lightweight, about 33 pounds. It's compatible with most of the standard charge controllers and inverters that we would use for other batteries. Still has an integrated battery management system. This battery is great for mobile applications, you know, smaller lighting, telecom, things like that, industrial stuff. You can see here it actually comes with Anderson connectors, so no bare wire connection, or no bare terminals. You can get it with bare wire, but there's never going to be bare terminals, which can be really beneficial when looking at things like small spaces where you need to, maybe for a mobile application or something like that. The access solution is one of our biggest sellers as well. This is regarding an ESS solution, so energy storage solution, all-in-one inverter, charger, batteries built into place. It's in a NEMA 3R enclosure. It can be DC or AC coupled, so new or existing PV definitely is a thing to look at too here. Existing, especially we're going to talk about today regarding the access. And we have UL 9540 options available. So we can look at that, both single and split or 3-phase. We can look at those options a little bit here. Here they are. Okay, so talking about 9540A, just something to look at here. So the access with the Solarc is 9540A, as well as we have the option to do Solarc with one of our Boss cabinets here. So you see the Boss cabinet is this white enclosure. It comes in either 6 battery enclosure or 12 battery enclosure. You can pair that with the Solarc and get that 9540 approved. Huge benefit to this is that you can scale up as much as you want here. You know, you're scaling up a lot more and you're a little more flexible, but you still hold that 9540. High voltage and commercial industrial products, you know, looking at things like microgrids and large scale backup up to 2 megawatt hours with this product, you know, looking at 3 or 480 volt 3-phase on the AC side, that's where this product's going to make a lot of sense. External BMS in this, 200 to 1,100 VDC nominal. So that is, you know, that's where you can stack them in series, and then you can parallel those stacks from there and build out an energy. CAN bus, Modbus, Ethernet ready right out of the gate. If you've got a project related to anything commercial, industrial, we have a nice project intake form where we can work with you directly on what sizing and things may be required for that specific commercial project. Okay, so how do you choose the right project or the right product for your project? Sorry, a bit of a tongue twister there. Let's look at some different kind of scenarios here. Let's look at retrofit solutions, which I think is really a big one here as far as sales go. And, you know, as we looked at already trend-wise, that's becoming more and more popular. So let's look at retrofit. You know, you've got a grid tied system already in place. What you're trying to accomplish is add a battery into place. The access solution is probably our biggest seller when it comes to that. It's all in one. It's easy to install when it comes to just getting it into this grid tied system. Basically, you know, I'll show you a diagram here, and it's a little exaggerated, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward still. So you got to keep your current rapid shutdown compliance typically when it comes to adding in this system, unless battery rapid shutdown is required, which it's not required in too many areas, but is becoming more common, which in that case, you just need the addition of one single button. Outdoor applications, most of the stuff in a grid tied system is already outdoors. The access is NEMA 3R rated, so it makes a lot of sense for this. And UL 9540, as I mentioned. Again, you can do the boss cabinet instead of the access. So just to go back. So here's the access all in one. The boss is just for the batteries themselves, but you can pair it with a solar to get that 9540. Or if you're just retrofitting, you don't need 9540, you can use it with whatever inverter you want. Good news here is you can scale up. I mean, 136.8 kilowatt hours of storage through these boss cabinets. And even if somebody's looking for like whole home backup, which is a tough one to do, definitely make sure you're double checking your plans on that, as it takes a lot of considerations. But you can accomplish it with looking at things like our Boss 12. And if maybe you might need 2 of those or 3 of those, depending on the loads, but you can accomplish whole home backup with our products, which is definitely an ask I think that people are going to have. Okay, so this is really basic, but let's just say you've got a nice grid tied system. Let's say this is your, we're going to use it as a combiner basically, or a landing point for our grid tied inverters, but it's a panel. So it's electrical load panel. Here's the main panel and here's the grid. You know, adding in an access solution is really just putting it in between this panel and this panel. Now, when the grid goes down, you disconnect from the main, and whatever's on this critical loads panel, you are powering. I've got a great presentation regarding AC-DC coupling, which goes a lot into the dynamics of retrofit if you're looking for something really technical. But just know it's, you know, that's all we're doing when we're adding in these access solutions. So if you have got a customer that wants to go battery from grid tied only to battery system, an access solution can just be put in line here. And now you not only can cover loads when the power's out, but you can also bring back online that PV when the power's out and charge your battery. Looking at off-grid solutions, a bit different here. So first and foremost, we warranty all our products for both on-grid and off-grid, including our access solution. You'll find a lot of companies that don't have that, where they don't really offer as much off-grid support. DC coupled is preferred. And I would just say use DC coupled if you're going off-grid, whether it's the access or you're putting the system together yourself, go DC coupled. If you're just using our standard batteries, like our PHI battery, and you're just putting the system together yourself, our batteries are scalable and designed as small building blocks. So this allows customers to meet high power and energy demands, supporting the whole home loads, which in an off-grid situation, they need the entire house backed up. So our batteries are very scalable in that sense that we can make that happen and cover the entire loads required. C/2 plays a big part when it comes to off-grid systems too. So our batteries have that C/2 rating for max charge. And when it comes to off-grid, you know, you're relying on the sun to charge every day. So, you know, you might need to make sure that you can allow as much PV coming in as possible. And C/2 really allows us to ensure that you can build a large array where it's almost, you know, it's half the size of the total kilowatt hours. So let's say you've got a 50 kilowatt hour battery bank and you've got a 25 kilowatt array. You can dump all of that into the battery for 2 hours and charge the entire thing in 2 hours. So looking at that compared to lead acid especially, it's a huge benefit when it comes to off-grid living. It's always important though, please properly size and set customer expectations. Moving to an off-grid lifestyle is always going to be a little different, even for people with larger systems. So it's always important to kind of give them an idea of what they have, what they need to use, and what could possibly overuse. Portable and mobile applications, we've got a product for that as well. We've got a few products for that. Again, the 1.4, 12, and 24 volt are really my go-tos when it comes to looking at, like RVs and boats and things like that. You can use our larger 48 volt battery, though equipment tends to be 24 or 12 volt in those situations. We do have the 3.8 as well in 24 volts. That could be used for those kind of applications as well. I think we're seeing a lot more sales towards things like RVs, vans, boats. Current situations, people are looking towards traveling that direction a lot more. And as an installer, it can be a great incentive to work on these projects. So just know our batteries are really designed. They're warranted for mobile applications, and really we have the products that can fit that need and that space requirement. We also have some kind of different all-in-one solutions for mobile applications. The Jennies, these are kind of similar to what you might see at a recreational store like an REI for a little power pack you carry around camping. We've got those products as well, and even have solar panels that fold out with them. If you're looking for something a lot larger that's still mobile and NEMA 3R, our Express unit here is an all-in-one inverter battery. Can accept solar, can accept grid, can power loads direct from its outlets, even in your home. This is a little bit bigger. We're talking, like over 7 kilowatt hours here of storage. So it is mobile though, and we have seen them used in various, emergency preparedness stuff. We're deploying after an emergency and bringing them on site. So they are mobile. Okay, monitoring communications. This one I think is big, and it's becoming more and more of an ask when it comes to customer expectations. They want high-level monitoring, and whether that's just system monitoring or battery monitoring, depends on the customer. So they might be looking for the most advanced monitoring possible and communications, and that would be our SimpliPhi battery, the one I showed in the very beginning. That is our most advanced battery. It communicates directly with the system to provide higher level monitoring. We've got even more stuff that can be added or that's coming out that we're going to be able to add to these systems as well in regards to monitoring. So it's kind of forever growing there. It's the latest and greatest. It has the ability to update firmware, which is a really big benefit when it comes to maybe a techie customer that wants to kind of make sure that they are always above the curve. Monitoring is not required, just FYI, to uphold our warranty. Look at some companies, you'll find that they require you to monitor your battery. If your battery disconnects for too long, you might have lost your warranty. So keep that in mind. We do not require that is not a requirement of our warranties, is constant monitoring or connectivity. The SimpliPhi, if you're an installer, is a good sell as well, as it provides the ease of installation for you, as it does most of the programming and whatnot itself. It does that automatically when connected to the solar converter. We also have systems that are compatible with various smart panels and load controls. These are becoming more and more of an ask as well for customers. So maybe you're cutting that critical loads panel out completely, and you're just using smart panels like the Lumen, the NAC. These are companies that take your panel and make it into a smart panel so you can control loads. You can pick and choose what you want during power outages. And they're really advanced. And we work with these companies, and we have products that can fit with these needs. So if you have customers asking for that, we have that product available. And we really have been working with them directly a lot so we know how to integrate these things. Actually, if you're interested, I have a recording on our YouTube channel. I did a presentation with Lumen. They're a smart panel manufacturer. Check them out. Their loads panels, we discussed some projects that we've done directly together. So if you're looking for large scale backup and microgrids, as I mentioned earlier, you're looking at our high voltage project or our product, the 40 volt 3-phase stuff, the higher voltages. You're looking, to have that high voltage that's being stepped down and distributed over high voltage solution. Our high voltage solution is preferred. So, you've got a central battery that maybe is being dispersed amongst various loads and areas. So we built this on a modular platform. They're scalable to fit voltage, power, and energy storage requirements. You get the same benefits of the lithium iron phosphate, but on a large scale. So you get that safety factor. Looking at containerized solutions that don't require liquid coolant on a large scale. And you get that really good reliability and longevity of the lithium iron phosphate on a commercial scale. So we do have that product as well. If you're looking for commercial industrial, we have the products to build those out using these 24 volt stacks or 48 volt stacks. And what I mean by that is those are modules, 24 volt module or 48 volt module. And they're stacked up to 200 to 1,100 VDC nominal. Okay, a little bit about our company regarding availability and purchasing from our company. We have a global network of trusted distributors. These are our distributors that we currently have on the right here, at least our master distributors. You'll find other places that have our batteries, online stores that have our batteries. They're all going through these, but these are our main big ones here. Most of these companies are experienced with system design and customer support. They can help if you're a new installer to batteries. They can help you a lot. They also have the ability to do a one-stop shop for bill of materials. So we're looking at everything we need. I see a few hands raised. Again, if you've got any questions, type them into that Q&A on your control bar, and I see a few questions in there already, and we will be sure to get through them at the end. So what is the point of having a distributor network? Oftentimes I think people ask, hey, why can't we just buy direct? Well, it actually doesn't even make sense at this point. We've got this huge network that stocks our batteries. They can provide a lower cost, definitely lower shipping. Some of them even provide free shipping, and really keeps the price competitive. So they really can fill everybody's needs as regards of systems, design, price, and more than anything, time of arrival. Most of our distributors have stock constantly. So batteries are not, definitely there's always some hiccups where maybe, our batteries are held up a couple weeks. But for the most part, most of our distributors are stocking batteries and selling our batteries. So they're easily available. All right. You might have heard me talk about levelized cost of energy. If you've taken any of my other trainings, we're going to just kind of go through what we standardly go through there. Looking at what's the cost of every kilowatt hour I can get out of this system. And specifically, the equation that we use for batteries. You can see the equation here, upfront cost over total kilowatt hour capacity times the depth of discharge warranted times cycle lives as specified at that depth of discharge and efficiency. So this tool shows how to look beyond upfront costs and to understand how to determine a battery's return on investment. What does the lifetime cost of the battery bank really look like? So I'll see if this works. Maybe, yep, worked enough. So we actually have a levelized cost of energy tool on our website. If you're looking to look at our battery's cost over its lifespan, you can type in the battery. You can type in how much you're paying for a battery from your distributor. you can select the depth of discharge you plan to use, and you get a number there. This is your levelized cost of energy. This is per kilowatt hour of the lifetime of the battery. And then from there, you can either compare to a lead acid or you can compare it to other lithium batteries. So you can definitely do a lot here when it comes to comparing upfront cost. So I would definitely recommend using this tool as an easy tool to sell your customer if they're really looking at what is the cost of my battery over the lifetime of that battery. Okay, so we're going to go a little different direction here. This is kind of our last main section, but I want to talk about understanding spec sheets and warranty documentation. I think, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I said there was a video recently of a comparison made, actually by, I believe, Fortress, where they pick and choose some of our stuff and they pull out different specs that make them look better by pulling out either our SimpliPhi and the SimpliPhi battery, the standard Phi battery, and kind of mixing the two. So I think what I always try to do is don't ever trust a company comparing batteries to batteries. It's just not going to be what you should do. You should educate yourself always to understand how to look at your own comparison and understand spec sheets, and more importantly, understand warranties to be able to make your own determinations of what a company is saying and what they're providing. And when they're comparing to other people, are they being truthful, or are they picking and choosing, as we saw, various different set points and different products and mixing them together? Or maybe just flat out getting the wrong information. So this is a little excerpt out of one of our spec sheets, our 3.8 kilowatt hour Phi battery. Some great things to look at that you're often going to come across that are good to compare on spec sheets are underlined here and circled. Avoid my little scratch writing here. I was going to clean that up, but I think it just shows exactly what I needed to. So max discharge rate. This will mostly be in time. So max discharge rate, we're talking surge. You can see here, we say 10 minutes. So you can see for our 48 volt battery, let's just look at that column today. The 80 amps DC, we even call it out in kilowatts. So 4.1 kilowatts. That's the max discharge at 10 minutes. Let's say you go to a different company and they have max discharge listed and it says 150 amps. But then you go and you look and it says 5 milliseconds. Well, there's your difference. So there's not a standard, unfortunately, but definitely keep the time difference in mind. The shorter the time, the greater the surge typically is on a battery. So we're rated at 10 minutes, which is a huge surge window. To be able to pull that much power for 10 minutes is a lot. Continuous charge and discharge. This is one of the most important numbers. That's your C rate, your max charge and discharge rate. So that's your continuous, we're talking an hour. 37.5 amps DC. Again, we could try to make ours as specific as possible. We call it out in DC and we call it out in kilowatts. So I think it's important to look at when you're looking at the spec sheet. Oftentimes you'll see max discharge and you won't see max continuous charge and discharge. That often is a kind of tool by companies where they are trying to just not talk about what their max continuous charge rate is. They will just simply call out max discharge at surge rate to make it as, hey, look how good we are. Look how high this is. And then it's up to you to determine, is that the surge rate or is that the continuous rate? They're different. Charging temperature, the reason I circle this one, every company has their temperature. However, not every company puts charging temperature versus operating temperature on their spec sheets. And you can even look at this, not every company looks at warranty temperature versus operating temperature. Operating is really discharge and standby. Charging temperature can often be, and this is not always the case, often operating temperature is the same as your charge temperature, but charge temperature often can be more of a narrow window, and that's the one you want to look at. So you might be compared, one battery to another, and they just list the operating temperature. Then you go into the warranty and you realize That's not even right. I actually looked when I came back to that Fortress thing where they were comparing our battery to their battery, there was a temperature spec listed out there. But when you looked at it and you looked through their warranty, it actually specified that their temperature window was even more narrow and cut down the cycles to like 3,000 cycles or something along those lines. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. Whatever's on a spec sheet, well, we're going to talk about that in a second, but just know whatever's on the spec sheet oftentimes is not what's in the warranty. We try to very much stay true to our spec sheet by listing warranty parameters. Cycle life's listed, clear right there. What's your expectation? However, the warranty couldn't be any more simple. 10 years unlimited cycles, listed right there, 10 years. Excuse me. So again, warranty is the key though. Spec sheet is one thing. Here's my trick. Pop into a customer, let's say you're looking at a battery that you've never looked at before, and you're just trying to figure out how many cycles are warranted for that battery. Is there a limit? Go into their warranty document. Don't look at their spec sheet. Hit Control F and hit cycles, cycle, whatever the word is, throughput. You'll find those little nooks and crannies that you're looking for. And again, oftentimes companies will kind of hide their warranty parameters versus their spec sheet information. End of life, what is a company offering for end of life? Meaning, at 10 years, we still say 80% EOL, end of life. That's not as high for a lot of companies. They'll go lower than that, which means they're not guaranteeing as much performance at the end of that warranty period. It's also important to look at, again, warranty guidelines versus max thresholds. So often if you see a spec sheet might refer to, a max threshold, but that doesn't mean that it's warranty threshold. So it's important to look at that and say, what is the maximum discharge that they're warranty, not just calling out as a potential. And monitoring reporting guidelines. I can think of one company that I won't mention that does this more than anybody, where if your battery disconnects from the monitoring platform, you are SOL regarding the warranty of that battery. So always keep an eye out for that. I just wanted the only comparison I will make here is looking at this, they came across this and I thought it was a good chart to look at. This was done by the Clean Energy Review through various testing of each different battery sent and looking at battery capacity and round trip efficiency comparison. So you can see here, we came out on top compared to these other companies. And, looking at the round trip, also looking at capacity after 10 years, EOL, end of life, and capacity after 15 years. So while every company can say one thing, do one thing, whatever it may be, we have shown that our batteries have the longevity and the lifespan that we want. And definitely customers are going to look for as well. Okay, as an installer, you've got some tools that you can use. I won't jump into all of them, but just know we really are trying to help you as the installer, as the salesperson, as the system designer. We created these tools on our website for your benefit. The PHI sizing tool, just if you need, hey, I've got this many kilowatt hours, what's my storage capacity? The more advanced system design calculator, so system-based PHI battery calculator based on various things like AC coupling, DC coupling, charge controller, inverter sizing, things like that. And our lead acid battery bank replacement calculator. This one is one of my favorite tools. You're replacing a lead acid battery bank, hop onto our tool. We've done the work for you. Just type in the current bank and we'll tell you how much you would need to replace that regarding our batteries. And you can even pick which battery you want to replace it with. Our technical sales and support is one of the main things we look to provide for installers as much as possible. So we're really committed to providing a high-level technical support. And that could be anything from not just post-sales, but pre-sales as well. We're always there to help with system design. If you have pre-sales questions, you're just now starting to work on a project, reach out to our sales line. They are technical salespeople. They are not just pushing sales most of the time. They have knowledge of the industry or even of technical pieces, parts and pieces, and engineering as well. We're available on our tech support side to help with remote site commissioning. You know, if you're on site, you want to call us, talk to us, give us a call. We're happy to walk you through set points, things like that. Make sure everything goes right. And I will say I've dealt with a lot of support companies in my day in this industry, and we pick up the phone. It's pretty rare that you're going to get a message unless it's after business hours or before business hours. But even if you do leave a message, typically somebody will call you back pretty quickly. You're not going to sit on hold for hours and hours. So we are dedicated to getting those phone lines and not frustrating the installer by making them sit around. I can attest personally to the tech support team, which is also one of my departments. We have knowledge beyond just the batteries. So call us if you have questions about integration. Most of our techs are familiar with PV, batteries, inverters, charge controllers, basic electrical design. You know, our knowledge definitely goes for the entire system design. So we're happy to help. And I know there's a lot of companies currently that are having a hard time picking up the phone, or you sit on hold for too long. Give us a call. We can help you out. Technical support is provided beyond the warranty of the products as well. So just because your product is out of warranty does not mean that we're not going to do everything in our power to help assist with any issues. If you're looking for any documentation, we've got everything you can need: integration guides, wiring guides, installation manuals, warranties, spec sheets, yada, yada, yada. All of it is on our website. We really try to put as much info on there as possible. So look through it. Look through our YouTube channel and all the videos as well. We've got how-to videos on our website. We've got training videos on our YouTube channel. We've got it all. I am going to very briefly talk about our IQ program before I end the presentation. So our Elite IQ Installer program is the installer qualification program. It's not actually a requirement to install our batteries. What it is it's a benefit for you to make more sales, better sales as an installer. So if you've already installed our batteries, if you have 2 installs already done, join this program. It's super easy. Go online, go into the training tab, go to IQ Installer. There's an application right there. It takes 10 minutes to fill out. You get to end up on our where to buy page where customers will see your information directly and drive you sales. You will become part of our IQ newsletter. You might even become the installer of the month, which has been driving huge numbers of clicks towards the installer of the month so far. Matthew and myself actually have started a kind of new podcast type deal where we're going to be discussing various things every probably month, maybe a little bit more than that, kind of whenever we can fit it in. Our first iteration is about to come out soon. We're going to be inviting our IQ installers onto those podcasts as well, highlighting their business and their knowledge. So that'll only drive more and more customers towards them. So again, if you're already installing our batteries, hop on this. We are trying to drive your sales through the roof with this program. Distributors as well. If there's any distributors on the call, you want your installers on this page. Sales for them means sales for you. It all trickles back up, and you really want to make sure that your #1 installers are shown on this map as trusted installers for our batteries and products. So again, you're already installing our batteries. If you have 2 installs done and you're not part of this program, I definitely encourage you, hop on. Again, go to support, go into the support tab. Let me see, I'm going to do it right now, actually. Support. Let's do it right here. Okay. Go to training IQ installer qualifications. Scroll down a bit, and you will find the application here is very, very straightforward. Get you part of that program right away. So please, more and more people are applying every day. We want more and more, we're encouraging more and more that are already installing our batteries to get on it. Okay, let's pop over to questions. So again, I've got Dan Sauer here as well. If there's anything super sales related, I might pass it off to Dan, or Dan, if you just want to chime in on any of them, please cut me off. So I see some interest in commercial applications. I hope we covered some of our products that cover that. If you are interested in a specific project, reach out to us. We can work through the project intake form. Any drawbacks of using SimpliPhi batteries in a sailboat that you can think of? We've got a lot of boat applications. I think my big thing when it comes to boats and anything marine related, make sure it is not exposed to water. The batteries themselves are not NEMA 3R rated, so we want to make sure they're in a nice enclosure. But I see tons of boats and mobile applications related to boating that uses our batteries. Do you think we will be able to net meter in the future with batteries only? Energy arbitrage without solar panels. I don't know, Dan, you got anything on that one? I can't speculate there.
No, policies tend to change with the winds these days. So in terms of a real forecast on that, not necessarily. However, if you are in California, there are some industry groups that I personally work closely with, such as say CALSA, that can give better insights onto that. But as for now, nothing much in relation to the NEM market.
Awesome. And Dan, do you want to maybe take this one too? But retrofit does not qualify for solar ITC.
What, retrofit?
Yeah. Is that true?
So yes, true.
And what would be your work? What would be some incentives that maybe do make sense? At least the ones that you know about, like in California, that are kind of.
Yeah, we can certainly utilize S-chip. So you might lose out on the ITC perhaps, but there are others, especially if you're in either a high threat fire district where you've experienced 2 power safety power shutoffs because of fires, or perhaps low income developments, businesses, or housing. Those are all areas in which you can take advantage, sometimes even getting the entire darn project paid for over the years with the rebate from, again, that's S-chip.
Awesome.
And you can always call us anytime. There's a few of us on the team here that can speak to further details on that.
All right, so next one, looks a few technical ones here. Schneider recommends a grid supply voltage of 64, which means that the batteries are maintained charge rather than cycling. I don't believe this configure allows for nighttime battery usage to supply house loads. What setting would SimpliPhi recommends that the batteries are used at nighttime when recharged when the sun comes up? Yeah, it's tough. If you're AC coupled, really it doesn't support self-consumption. DC coupled, however, absolutely does. So if you're looking to kind of do those kind of situations where you're looking for time of use, DC coupled is the way to go. If you are AC coupled, you can use things like grid timers. Most systems do have it. I know the Outback and the Solar do for sure. I have to look into Schneider. I believe it does as well, though, where you can say, basically, you're not telling the batteries to discharge at that time, but you can tell the inverter not to use the grid at that time. So effectively, you still have time of use, just using grid timers. So a grid use timer would be my suggestion there. When AC coupling with Schneider Access, do we use 2-stage charging or 3-stage charging parameter for the inverter? Great question, Nancy. 2-stage charging always when it comes to AC coupling. You don't want the float charge when it's a retrofit to an already existing PV array. So can you speak to the monitoring capabilities of the SimpliPhi battery? So currently with the Phi battery, the monitoring is all just coming from the inverter. So if it's in our access solution, that monitoring is built in to the various platforms of Solarc and Schneider. If you are looking at our Amplify battery, that communicates its own data direct to the inverter. So anything you're seeing on this inverter platform, the monitoring platform for the solar, is directly coming from the SimpliPhi battery itself. We are pushing really hard to look at battery specific monitoring. So it's just related to the battery, which would be the SimpliPhi, where it's not even going through the inverter itself. That's more to come there, though. I know it's on our hot list of things to get done. So I won't talk too much there because never know timelines on these things, but it's definitely a need and a want. Thinking about buying a BEV, would it be possible, advisable on putting a solar powered grid connected system? Would you be able to enable DC charging for vehicle? This would be better than AC 240 class 2 charging. Not sure I get the question 100% there, but if you're talking about charging from an alternator, check out my joint training with Victron Energy. It's on our YouTube channel. We go over everything mobile when it relates to charging from a DC source inside of a vehicle. There's a lot of parts and pieces that do need to be added. Victron makes them all, so check them out. They have every part and piece you could need to make sure. So just think about that. Most vehicles are designed for lead acid batteries. So it's important that if we're using a lithium battery as a house supply battery in like an RV or something like that, we want to look at how the alternator charges and what needs to be put in line to make sure it's charging the lithium battery correctly. Pretty easy if you know who to go to. So again, reach out to us or reach out to Victron, check out that training. As far as charging AC, that's fine as well. I mean, we're just converting from AC to DC there and charging up. Canadian suppliers, the ones I know of, let's go back. So I'm screwed up. Dan, maybe you know them all off the top of your head here. Ray Solar.
Yeah, we have Sentinel, Ray Solar, HESPV, and I believe I'm missing one off the top of my head there.
Okay.
But we do cover east to west coast as well as central Canada.
Awesome. And that actually covers the next question as well. So can you please explain if cycle life is 10,000 cycles, 365 days per year, so 27 years, is that correct? So no, 10,000 cycles is expected lifespan. We warranty for 10 years. Unfortunately, we can never run a business and be able to warranty for 30 years on a battery. We do warranty for 10 years, which is pretty much industry standard. We do unlimited cycles. But at 80% depth of discharge, we do expect 10,000 cycles from the battery. Oh, good question. Is the max continuous discharge rate of 37.5 amps DC per battery? Yes, per battery. So every time you add a battery, you're adding more of that continuous discharge and charge rating. Did you say you can fully cycle these batteries for 10 years under full warranty? Technically, you can do 100% depth of discharge within the 10-year period over and over. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to get a much longer and better lifespan out of the battery, though. If you're trying to get past that 10-year period, a lot, and save yourself on getting to that, what that guy say, 27 years, 80% depth of discharge is really the way to go. So if you can avoid 100% depth of discharge, do it. But yes, we do warranty for it. So yeah, that's the next question, kind of covers that one too. Battery, how cold can your batteries withstand? So 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the lowest charging temperature. If you're looking at cold weather solutions, please reach out to us. We've got some solutions there that can help you out. Is this a broadcast available for future viewings? I am recording, so we'll be able to reference this and send out something. So again, monitoring wise, the PHI battery really is just going off the inverter. I see some questions again about that. And the SimpliPhi is able to communicate its own settings and readings to the inverter itself. I'm located in Senegal, West Africa. I wish to know where your nearest distributors may be. Dan?
Currently, South Africa is where we do have stock. So that would be the nearest location. However, we do have partners out of Europe that can ship throughout the continent as well.
Awesome. And who's the partner in South Africa?
That's African Energy.
African Energy. Awesome. Good question here. Looking down the line, what is the SimpliPhi doing to address recycling of their products down the road? Yeah, good question. It's definitely something we're looking into. We know of various places that you can go to recycle the battery, depending on where you're located in the world. And we're trying to build that network even more and more, but we're definitely addressing it directly. And even looking at things like second use and various applications like that. But if you're looking to recycle a battery, we can help you out. So just contact us direct. Oh, BEV is a battery electric vehicle. Don't use our, we don't use our batteries typically in electric vehicles. So they're really not designed for that just yet. Unless, I mean, if there's a specific project you want to talk about with us, that's something custom, we can look into it. But we do have some electric vehicles on some smaller scale stuff that use our batteries. But if you're talking like, you know, trying to drive down 100 kilowatt hours of battery down the road, probably not our battery. Can I add a new PHI battery with an existing PHI battery system? Yeah, good. Glad I actually got asked that. It's something I should have mentioned a long time ago. Yes, we do allow for expandability when it comes to our batteries, meaning you can add new batteries to an existing system. So if you're, you know, put in some 3.5s, those are our older model, and 3 years later you want to add more batteries, our 3.8 is actually compatible even, then you can add those into the system. The warranty always refers back to the oldest battery, just so you know, though. All right. Well, looks like I'm freezing up just a bit here, but it looks like we are just about out of time, or a little over time, but that's all right. So I will end it there. If you have any other questions at all regarding our training program, our IQ program, upcoming newsletters, things like that, anything sales related, reach out to us. Training at SimpliPhiPower.com. We're happy to funnel everything through there. We've got other email addresses like sales and whatnot, but if you've got any questions that you just want to answer and you just want to write that down, please feel free just to email me right there and I will get you to the right department. Really appreciate everybody's time. And this will be an ongoing presentation. This is one of our new modules that we'll be trying to kind of refine. And if there's anything you want to see more of, anything you think will help you sell more SimpliPhi batteries, let us know. Thank you, everyone.